Are you sick of living in the shadow of someone else? Need some help learning to love yourself and tap into your unique strengths, or embrace your leadership potential so you can thrive in your life? This is Empower with Nancy. Let's start the show. Oh.
Today, we're going to talk about a topic that's really close to my heart, and I think it will resonate with a lot of you out there, especially if you're in a leadership position or aspiring to be. The struggles of being an executive is really being in the role, and more importantly, how to get through the role. So grab a coffee, sit down. If you're driving to work, just listen, be safe as you're driving. So, being an executive isn't all glamour with a beautiful office, right? Sometimes when we feel that we have this high executive paying job, that you're going to be in this beautiful office and you're going to have, it's just going to be so wonderful, and you're going to get and have and be able to do anything that you want. And sometimes that's not always true. So it can be tough and often a lonely road where you sometimes feel you're on your own island. And I can say that from experience. When I first stepped into an executive role, I thought that I made it. I did it, and I did. And it took a long time for me to get there, but I was very consistent. I was adamant, and I challenged the crap out of myself to do this. But what I didn't anticipate was the on camera feeling like you're under the microscope, on the camera, the responsibilities, and the emotional roller coaster that came with it. Not only emotional roller coaster with me at the time, but emotional roller coaster within the employees, the staff, the CEO, executives, and such. It was like a constant, nonstop emotional roller coaster. And what does that do? It really sucked the life out of me. So let's talk about some of the real struggles was decision fatigue. As an executive, you're faced with countless decisions each and every day, but some are small, like maybe approving a project or a budget, or making other deciding decisions for future direction for the company. And thinking to yourself, am I making the right decision? And if I don't, what's going to happen? And it can get exhausting feeling that negative mindset, these limiting beliefs that you have. You reach a point where your brain just feels completely fried. I remember the days where 3 o'clock came and I couldn't even decide what I wanted to eat for lunch. And most of the times I skipped, and let alone make a crucial business decision. So being in an executive role, it is phenomenal. But knowing how to get through the struggles and the challenges are key, and not allowing it to consume you. So how do you get through it? Here's what worked for me was dedication and prioritization. It might sound cliche, but it's the honest to God truth. You have to trust your team, empower them to make decisions within their area of expertise. Try not to throw in a responsibility where you know that you're setting them up to fail. You don't have to carry every decision on your shoulder. It's about building a strong team around you who can help share that load. And for those decisions that do need your attention, prioritize them. I find that tackling the most crucial ones early in the morning really will help refresh my day for the day, and it made a huge difference. So I always, the night before, made a list of the things that were very crucial, and I prioritized them, knowing that when I got in the office, I would not let anything get in the way. I would make sure that I sat down and did what I needed to do for that day to kickstart my morning. Another big one is, okay, I'm going to say it, imposter syndrome. Yes, even at an executive level, there were times when I would walk into an executive meeting and think, what if they find out I don't actually know what the hell I'm talking about or doing right now? And even though I knew exactly what I did or was doing, but I went into the meeting fearing that I didn't know what I was doing. But here's the thing, no one knows everything. And sometimes you have to fake it to make it. And you learn from it. You learn from others. Doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. The key is to keep learning and surround yourself with people who are competent, that can see your weaknesses and flourish to achievements, and not looking at you did something wrong and then you are pinned to a wall because you did something wrong. No, don't ever have that mindset of going in to a meeting or a project knowing that you don't know what the hell you're doing. Yes, you do know what you're doing. You can make it work. So I made learning a daily habit. Every single day, I pushed myself to learn. And a lot of times, you know, people don't sit there and train. They'll give you simple training. But it was crucial for me to set up training for my staff and employees to make sure that they were given all the tools that they needed to be successful, and not focusing on, oh, I don't want to give them too much information because they're going to take my job. No, no matter what position you're in, don't ever fear that. If you do, though, remember, thoughts become things, and you will head that direction if you continue to think that. So, whether going back to my daily habits, whether it is reading your industry articles or self improvement books, listening to podcasts, I have a million different books. I listen to podcasts. I do a lot of self development. And I love to have lunch and meet people that are mentors, right? That I can learn from. I always made room for growth, and you shall too. And the imposter syndrome, it never fully goes away, but you learn to manage it. You learn to use it as a motivator to keep pushing yourself. Then there is an isolation where you feel no one really talks about how lonely it can be when you're at the top. You're in this weird position where you're part of a team, but also apart from it. Sometimes you feel like you're in your own island. You can't always be open about your doubts or struggles with your peers or, subordinate others. Like sometimes you want to be so open and real and talk to other executives about how you feel. So, and sometimes when you do that, you feel that you're setting yourself up to fail or they look at you differently. No, build that confidence within yourself. And if there is something that is bothering you, or you have a suggestion to bring to the meetings or leadership or investors or clients, whatever that may be, there's a way to present yourself. There's two things that are important, is communication and attitude. Present in a way that you can flourish of the outcome that you want within that meeting. Don't fear that the way you feel can hinder your position. So, what's the solution? Find a support network outside of your immediate work environment. For me, that was other executives in different industries. I loved to hear and I was part of a lot of women's groups in the industry I was in. I went to a lot of different webinars, seminars, and I was able to meet some very powerful people that I learned from. We would meet for coffee or just set up a call, and I felt a safe place to vent at times, to get advice and to really be heard. Having that network was a game changer for me. It reminded me that I wasn't alone, that others were going through the same thing that I was. I didn't put myself in a position to fail, because each and every day that I made mistakes, I looked at that as opportunities to keep going. I always wanted to touch on a work life balance or lack of. When you're in an executive role, the lines between work and personal life really blurred. It's so easy to fall into a trap of being available 24/7. And that was my downfall. My husband and kids would always say, Mom, do you ever stop working? And I didn't. And it took me years and years and years and years. And sometimes to this day, I am still a workaholic, but I know my boundaries. And the days that I can't take away from my family as they're growing up, those days don't repeat itself. I can't tell you how many times I've been at dinner with my family only to have my mind wander back to the office, thinking about what I need to do for the day. And it's not just a struggle, it's a battle, because that is constantly going through my mind at that time, even to the point where I laid my head on the pillow and that's all I thought about was work. How am I going to get through this? Am I going to make a difference? I'm going to make the right decisions. Is my staff going to listen? My boss or executives going to understand? Are we all going to continue to have this emotional draining feeling each and every day like a battle? It doesn't have to be that way. And that is one thing that I changed in an executive position is I created culture. I created collaboration. I created a team that was powerful, that united, that they knew that they can come to me good, bad, or ugly. I made the difference because that is what I chose to do. So how did I manage it? Well, it starts with work in progress, one step at a time. But I found setting boundaries was crucial, and not just for me, but for everyone around me. I started by setting specific times when I would check emails and when I wouldn't. And that is the thing that really can consume us is we're constantly living in our emails. And that is what you don't want to do. I made it clear to my team that unless it was an absolute emergency, it could wait until a few hours the next morning. And it also forced them to help them make the decisions and not having to come to me to make the decisions for them. I had to practice what I preached. I had to respect my own boundaries, which was the hardest part for me. And one last thing I wanted to mention is self care. It's easy to neglect when you're busy running a company, but it's non negotiable. Guys, it's really, truly not negotiable. You can't pour from an empty cup. I learned that the hard way. And let me tell you, it was hard. There was a period of where I was burning a candle at both ends, and it was nearly led to complete burnout. But I can't blame anybody for that. I can only blame myself. So, what changed me? I started treating self care as part of my job. Yes, I treated self care as part of my job. I made time to exercise, even when if it was just 15, 30 minutes. Maybe it's a walk, jumping on my Peloton. I used to be a gym freak where I was constantly going to the gym, but I stopped that years ago because I can do things on my own comfort, in my own home, or in nature. I started to meditate. I started to journal. I started to believe in myself. I started to build the confidence in myself because I was very crystal clear of what I wanted in my life outside of being an executive. But it really helped clear my mind and reduce the stress. And I made sure to take breaks, real breaks, taking time away from the office, away from my emails, to just recharge, to start being consistent in the things that I wanted to do, to be crystal clear of the feeling empowered and fulfilled, and making sure when I wake up in the morning that I didn't feel exhausted or just worried about I have to go through another stressful day, another emotional stressful day. No, kind of tell yourself, when is enough enough? So if you're an executive role or aspiring to be, know this, it's tough and it's okay to find tough. And it is okay to feel that way from time to time. But you're not alone in this. It's a journey, and everyone's path is different. And you control the will of your happiness. You have all the tools in your toolbox. Start using them. But with the right strategies and support, you can navigate the struggles and come out stronger on the other side. If you take away one thing from today's episode, let it be this: leadership is not about being perfect, it's about being resilient, learning from your experiences, and growing every day. So give yourself some grace. You're doing better than you think. With gratitude, Nancy.